Summer in Mara released this month for the Switch and on Steam. It's a Kickstarter game from a small team that boasts a bright, nostalgic art style alongside light farming and exploration elements. On paper, it's a game that should be an appealing and addictive game of its type, but in practice it unfortunately feels half-baked and plodding a good portion of the time. It also boasts some technical issues on the Switch that, while not a deal-breaker, help contribute to the game's overall rough-around-the-edges feeling. I received a free code to check out the Switch version of this game, so my experience stems solely from that version. Some of the things I mentioned in this video may be fixed in a future patch, or may not even exist in the Steam release. In Summer in Mara, you play as Koa, a young girl who is sweet in spite of her bad manners, looking after a small island with your grandmother who obviously isn't your real grandmother, but effectively takes that role. The game seems very promising out of the gate, opening with a dramatic cutscene that sets the stage before just plopping you in with no direction. You're then taught how to plant and care for vegetables, how to gather resources like wood and stone, craft items like watering wells and tools, and given foreshadowing of the game's greater lore. The characters are charming in spite of their simplistic back and forths, and washed with memories of games like Wind Waker, it's difficult to not feel on board right away. After a few in-game days, your grandmother has vanished and a strange creature has wrecked their ship on your shore. After gathering resources to help fix their ship, you set off to the nearest island in search of someone who knows where your grandmother went. And it's at this point in the game that your patience and reliance on the game's charm to help pull you through will be tested. From here on, the game shows its core gameplay loop. You'll find a character who you need something from, and they'll either humor you and request something in return, or set you off to find a different character who you'll need to do something for before coming back to them to get what you need. There are a lot of fetch quests. Like, a lot. Sometimes you'll need to sail back to your island to grow specific crops, or to farm resources to raise money, or to build certain things that other islands' villagers need. All of this with a hunger system and a day and night system governing your actions. You need to keep yourself fed and keep yourself well rested to avoid passing out on the spot. There doesn't really seem to be much consequence to doing so, however, as this game is immensely relaxed. While the game's look and seafaring may harken back to Wind Waker, this game doesn't have any combat or ways to die, really. Trying to accomplish the farming tasks in particular reveals odd quirks in the game's design. Once planted, a crop will grow regardless of whether you water it or not. Watering the crops will just help them grow fully more quickly. However, your watering wells run out of water very quickly with use, with a frustrated Koa mentioning that they can only be refilled with rainwater. In my hours of playtime, I have yet to see a rainy day, meaning I either have to do without or dismantle the well to recoup some of the resources spent on crafting it, then going to gather more resources, then returning to craft a new watering well, which miraculously comes filled with water, despite water not being one of the ingredients to make it. One of the game's official Twitter accounts touches on this quirk, saying that the aim of the game is to take it slow and easy and just let a rainy day come, then after a line break, basically urging one to break the well and rebuild it. I hope a future patch increases the happenstance of rainy days. I understood while playing that the game is heavily encouraging a relaxed, chill atmosphere, but when the workarounds are so odd, it just stands to highlight the actual issue. That broke the immersion for me a bit, and what didn't help is the game's frame rate. It's mostly fine on the initial island, but once you get to the first new island, it's constantly dropping and stuttering as you move around the town. This isn't a reflex-based game by any means, so the lack of a consistent frame rate does nothing to harm the moment-to-moment gameplay, but it certainly hampers immersion. And frankly put, the game's charm and immersion is its main strength, so this actively being hampered does it no favors. Overall, I couldn't help but feel disappointed with Summer in Mara. Its menus and sound effects feel a bit slapdash, its music, while very pleasant, often cuts out at jarring intervals, and of course the mentioned frame rate does a lot to counter the very solid character design and dynamics. Everything else just feels a bit too light. I wish the Sidequest impetuses felt more organic, and I wish it didn't feel like they were intentionally wasting your time sometimes. For example, one of your first major tasks in the game is to talk to an elderly lady in a lighthouse on the first new island you visit. For her to talk to you, you have to do some other side quests which eventually give you the items you need for her to give you the time of day. That in itself isn't too bad, outside of some contrived dialogue. But what breaks this is that you can engage in commerce activities with the woman before completing the side quest. It really took me out of the experience that I could theoretically exchange money for goods from her, but couldn't throw in a, "Hey, do you know my grandma?" during the sale. The character is presented as a shut-in who avoids others on top of this, which exacerbates the issue. If she's a shopkeeper, then why is she also portrayed as a shut-in no one seems to know about or talk to? Things like that added up slowly and wound up making me feel emotionally disconnected from the game. Its mechanics certainly hadn't engaged me nearly as much there either. Stardew Valley is one of my favorite games of all time, so I truly do enjoy a good farming simulator, but Summer in Mara is so light on that aspect that it feels like more of a means to an end than an engaging part of the experience. I'm inclined to think that Summer in Mara might be a good entry to this type of game for a younger kid, but on the other hand, its more obtuse fetch quest would probably just be confusing to a child. On top of it all, for all the crafting you need to do in the game, you can only do the actual crafting at home. As far as I can tell, you can't even view the recipes unless you're at home. So if you're at the marketplace on the second island and can't remember what you need, you have to use time and fuel to go back to your house, look at the recipe, go back to the marketplace, buy what you need, then return back to your island to make it. It's just tedium that builds over time and would likely annoy a kid, so I'm not sure who this game's for. I really wanted to like this game. Its characters are beautiful, its presentation is great on the surface, and I loved the idea of a relaxing, sunny game, especially at this current point in time. But the more I played it, the more disengaged I felt with it, to the point that I was tempted to just follow a guide more than a few times to get through it. I can't personally recommend the game as it currently is. If you are very patient and charm goes a long way with you, then there might be something here for you. But it just didn't strike a chord with me past its opening hour or so. However, I want to end on a positive note and say I have a lot of hope that the team who made this game learned a lot making this, as I think they definitely have the talent to follow up with a sequel or another game and do a better job. Again, there is something here buried deep down. I just wasn't enticed enough to keep digging this time. This video was supported by my wonderful patrons like Potato, Goldstorm07, Buckles Chucklo, Jeet, Calico Plus, The Crazy Even, The Legend of Groose, Patrick Thompson, Svendelica, and Wolf Chaoson. If you want your name here in future videos, swing by my Patreon and toss a buck my way. Thanks!